Imagine for a moment that you're listening to a child tell a story, but this isn't just any story. It's a story so vivid, so detailed, it feels like a living memory, not something from the imagination of a young boy. A story that describes people, places, and events that no one ever told him about. Now, what if the name he utters in this story, one single name, is so startling that it sends a wave of shock and urgency through researchers, historians, and even skeptics across the country? This isn't just a mystery or a tale spun from a child's fancy. This is a puzzle that challenges everything we think we know about memory, identity, and maybe even life itself. Welcome to a journey that will pull you in deeper than you might expect. You're about to hear something extraordinary, something that has left experts scrambling for answers and ordinary people wondering, could a young boy truly be recalling a past life? And if so, what does it mean for us all? Right here, in this video, you will get the full story, from the first unsettling memories of a little boy to the groundbreaking discoveries that followed. Trust me, you'll want to watch every second of this because the answers you're looking for are all here, waiting to be uncovered. But before we dive into the heart of this remarkable story, let's take a moment to connect. I want you to think about your own memories, the experiences that shape who you are. Our memories define us. They give us a sense of continuity, of self, and of belonging in this world. But what if those memories aren't just ours? What if they belong to someone else, long before we were even born? How would that change the way you see yourself? I know it might sound unbelievable, even a little unsettling, but that's exactly why this story is so compelling. It challenges our deepest beliefs about reality and identity. The boy at the center of this story isn't just an ordinary kid. His name is Liam, and from a very young age, he began saying things that left his family stunned and puzzled. Unlike typical childhood fantasies or imaginary play, Liam's memories were strikingly precise. He described scenes from a life that ended decades before he was born, details about a family he never met, places he had never visited, and most shockingly, one name that kept coming up, a name that triggered intense investigations and debates among scientists and historians alike. What makes Liam's case even more gripping is the way the story unfolds. It's not just about a boy with a mysterious past. It's about the search for truth in a world where science and the unexplained often collide. You'll meet the researchers who devoted countless hours to studying Liam's claims, the skeptics who dismissed them outright, and the family members caught in the middle of a mystery far bigger than any of them could have imagined. This is a story that crosses boundaries between past and present, between the natural and the supernatural, between what we can prove and what we must simply wonder about. Throughout this video, I'll guide you step by step through Liam's astonishing memories, the key moments that made experts sit up and take notice, and the shocking revelation tied to that one unforgettable name. You'll hear from the people who witnessed Liam's detailed recollections firsthand, from the scientists who tested him, and from historians who scrambled to verify the facts. Every piece of this puzzle is here for you to see and judge for yourself. And here's the thing, this story is more than just entertainment. It's a window into questions we all face but rarely confront. Who are we really? What happens when we die? Can a soul, a memory, or some essence of a person live on beyond a single lifetime? These questions have fascinated humanity for centuries, and Liam's story adds a new chapter that could change everything. I know some of you might be skeptical. That's completely natural. But I encourage you to keep an open mind as we unravel this mystery together. There's something about the way Liam tells his story, the emotion, the detail, the conviction, that makes it hard to dismiss. And as the evidence builds, you'll find yourself drawn into a mystery that's both deeply personal and profoundly universal. So, if you've ever wondered about the possibility of past lives or questioned the limits of human memory, this video is for you. Stay with me through every moment because by the end, you'll have heard the name that sent shockwaves through the research community, a name so powerful it changed the course of this investigation forever. Before we jump in, take a moment to imagine the impact this story could have if it's true. Imagine the implications for families, for science, for our understanding of life itself. This isn't just a story to watch, it's a story to feel, to question, and maybe even to believe. Now, get ready to meet Liam and hear his story from the very beginning, the memories that started it all, and the name that changed everything. But be warned, what you're about to hear will challenge what you think is possible. And just when you think you might have the answers, this story will take a turn that no one saw coming. Because sometimes, the past doesn't stay buried. It finds a way back to us when we least expect it. And the truth? Well, it's more incredible than any of us imagined. Liam's story didn't just appear out of nowhere. In the months leading up to this extraordinary revelation, his life had been unfolding much like that of any other young boy growing up in a quiet American town. His days were filled with school, friends, and the usual ups and downs of childhood, but there was something quietly unusual simmering beneath the surface. Liam's parents first noticed the subtle hints when he began talking about things that didn't quite fit into the picture of their everyday lives. Names of places they had never visited, objects from a time long before Liam was born, and strangely specific memories that didn't match anything they knew about his family or their history. At first, they thought it might be a game, or perhaps a product of his vivid imagination. But as days turned into weeks, those imaginary stories grew more detailed and consistent, almost like a script written from someone else's life. What made it all more perplexing was Liam's behavior. He wasn't just recounting memories, he was emotionally invested in them. He would sometimes seem lost in thought, his gaze distant, as if transported back to a world no one else could see. Family friends remarked on the strange intensity in his eyes when he spoke of the past, a look that was too mature, too focused, for a child his age. His parents became both fascinated and deeply concerned, reaching out to doctors and psychologists to make sure there was nothing wrong. They wanted to understand if Liam was suffering from some rare condition or trauma, but every medical evaluation returned normal results. No signs of fantasy disorder, no psychological disturbances, just a boy who was speaking words and memories that belonged to someone else. Around the same time, a series of events at school added another layer of tension to the story. Liam had been unusually drawn to history classes, asking questions about eras and events that felt oddly personal. His teachers noticed how he could recall obscure facts and details that even adults found difficult to grasp. One of his classmates mentioned that Liam sometimes acted like he knew things he shouldn't, and while it was said with innocent curiosity, it soon stirred whispers among students and faculty alike. The boy who had once blended quietly into the background was suddenly becoming someone different, someone with a secret no one could quite unravel. To make matters more complicated, Liam's family was navigating their own challenges. His parents were under stress from work and financial pressures, and his older sister was going through a tough time in college, making the household atmosphere tense and unsettled. Some might say these circumstances could have contributed to Liam's unusual behavior, but those who spent time with him insisted there was something much deeper going on. They noticed that Liam's recollections didn't just emerge randomly. They often came after quiet moments alone, sometimes triggered by objects or pictures that seemed to resonate with his strange memories. And then there was the name, the one that set everything into motion. Liam mentioned it repeatedly, almost as if saying it was a way to anchor himself in this confusing blend of realities. The name itself wasn't common, and it belonged to a person who had lived many years before Liam was even born. This single detail sent researchers scrambling, opening doors to old archives and igniting debates about what could possibly explain such a connection. Was this name the key to understanding whether Liam's memories were echoes from a past life? Or was it a coincidence, a trick of the mind shaped by something else entirely? As the investigation deepened, a number of potential explanations and suspects emerged, complicating the story even further. Some experts suggested Liam might have been exposed to information unknowingly, through stories told by relatives, old photographs, or even media he had absorbed subconsciously. Others proposed more speculative theories: genetic memory, spiritual reincarnation, or perhaps something science hasn't yet explained. There were even whispers of people who wanted to discredit Liam's story, afraid of what it might mean if it were true. Among them were family friends who dismissed the whole thing as attention-seeking and critics who called it a fabrication. At the same time, the researchers involved faced their own dilemmas. They had to tread carefully, balancing the need for objective evidence with the human element of Liam's story. Interviews with Liam were both heartwarming and chilling. The boy could shift from innocent childlike wonder to a somber seriousness that hinted at the weight of his memories. Yet, no matter how much they dug, the deeper they went, the more questions surfaced. There were moments when Liam would mention people from the past, some kind, some cruel, and those details didn't always match perfectly with historical records, sparking debates about the reliability of his accounts. Were these discrepancies the result of fading memories, a child's interpretation, or something more? Throughout it all, Liam's family struggled to protect him. The sudden spotlight brought unwanted attention, with journalists, internet sleuths, and even conspiracy theorists weighing in. Their once peaceful life became a battleground of opinions and emotions. Liam himself was caught in the middle, sometimes confused, sometimes frightened by the whirlwind around him. His parents often wondered if they should shield him from the growing chaos or let the truth unfold naturally. But the name that kept resurfacing demanded answers that no one could ignore. As you watch this story unfold, you'll see how each new clue seems to lead in multiple directions. There are red herrings, unexpected twists, and characters who may not be what they seem. Is there someone out there with a vested interest in keeping the past buried? Could there be forces at work trying to silence the mystery before it's fully revealed? And what about the boy himself? Is Liam truly a messenger from another time, or is this a story shaped by coincidences and chance? The tension builds with every revelation, and the deeper you get into the story, the harder it is to separate fact from fiction. What starts as a curious case of a child's unusual memories turns into a compelling search for truth, one that challenges our very understanding of history, identity, and reality. You'll hear from experts who have dedicated years to studying reincarnation claims, skeptics who demand rigorous proof, and everyday people who have been touched by Liam's story in unexpected ways. Stay with me, because the next chapters will take you even further into the labyrinth of clues and questions. You'll meet the key figures who play roles both obvious and hidden, each adding their own shade of mystery to the unfolding drama. You'll learn about the cultural and scientific context that frame this case, and why it has sparked such a firestorm of interest online and offline. And most importantly, you'll come face to face with the one name, the name that nobody expected, the name that could unlock secrets buried for decades, or perhaps forever keep them out of reach. This story is far from over, and the real twists are yet to come. What you're about to witness will challenge your perceptions, make you question what you believe, and keep you guessing until the very last moment. Because sometimes, the past isn't just history, it's a living mystery, waiting for someone to uncover its truth. Just when it seemed like the pieces of Liam's extraordinary puzzle were beginning to fit together, unexpected obstacles started to surface, threatening to bury the truth deeper than anyone anticipated. It began subtly. A box of old photographs and letters that Liam's parents had kept safely tucked away suddenly vanished without a trace. This wasn't just any box. It contained some of the most compelling evidence linking Liam's memories to real events and people from decades ago. The disappearance baffled everyone in the family and left them feeling vulnerable and confused. Who could have taken it, and why? Was someone watching them, tracking their investigation, determined to stop them from digging too deep? Adding to the unease was a series of strange warnings. Liam's father received anonymous phone calls late at night, each one filled with cryptic messages urging him to let it go and stop stirring the past. The callers never identified themselves, but their tone was ominous and unmistakably serious. At first, his parents tried to dismiss these threats as prank calls or the nervous reactions of strangers online, but the feeling of being watched became impossible to ignore. Family friends, once supportive, started distancing themselves, casting suspicious glances, and avoiding questions about the missing evidence. Even some of the researchers involved in the case began pulling back, reluctant to get entangled in what was quickly becoming more than just an academic inquiry. As the tension mounted, another layer of complexity emerged, a secret from Liam's family history that no one had been ready to confront. In conversations that felt more like interrogations than talks, Distant relatives hinted at a hidden betrayal that had fractured the family years ago. There were whispers about a long-lost sibling, a bitter feud over inheritance, and a series of letters that had disappeared decades before. This revelation raised more questions than answers. Could this buried family conflict be connected to the strange events now unfolding? Was the missing box of evidence linked to this secret past? And if so, who stood to gain by keeping it hidden? Among those who stepped forward to help was a figure who at first seemed like a blessing, an old family friend named Mr. Harper. He presented himself as someone eager to assist the family, offering access to private archives and even introducing them to local historians who might verify Liam's memories. But as time passed, cracks began to show in Harper's story. There were inconsistencies in what he said about his past, and some of the information he provided didn't quite line up with official records. A few members of the research team started whispering about Harper's possible connections to rival families and old disputes. Was he truly a helpful ally, or was he playing a more dangerous game, steering the investigation away from the truth for reasons no one yet understood? Meanwhile, Liam struggled with his own confusion and fear. The boy who once seemed so certain about his memories now found himself caught between worlds, the familiar reality of his family and the shadowy past that was pulling him deeper into the unknown. He began withdrawing at times, hesitant to share more, as if sensing that revealing too much might put him or his loved ones at risk. The emotional toll on Liam was evident, and those closest to him wrestled with how to protect him without shutting down the investigation entirely. Every new piece of information seemed to come with a price, and the balance between truth and safety grew more fragile by the day. As if that wasn't enough, a pivotal breakthrough that could have cracked the case wide open slipped through their fingers. A rare document, believed to contain proof of the connection between Liam's memories and a historic figure, was discovered in an archive, but vanished just before it could be officially examined. The circumstances of its disappearance were suspicious: locked cabinets broken into, security footage mysteriously erased, and officials baffled by how someone could have pulled off such a theft with no apparent motive beyond secrecy. This only deepened the mystery and intensified speculation that powerful forces might be at work, determined to keep the truth hidden at all costs. Just when hope seemed to be fading, a final twist took everyone by surprise. Liam's mother received a letter, and signed and written in a hand that was both familiar and chilling. It warned that the answers they sought were dangerous, and that continuing the search could have serious consequences. The letter hinted at secrets buried far beyond family history, secrets involving long-forgotten alliances, betrayals, and a network of people who would go to great lengths to protect their past. The message ended with a line that sent chills through the family: "Some memories are meant to stay buried." The line between friend and foe blurred, the path forward grew darker, and the question everyone was left asking was simple but terrifying: who could they really trust? And would they find the truth before it disappeared forever, swallowed by silence and shadow? As you stay with the story, prepare to dive even deeper into the twists and turns that lie ahead. Because the next revelations might just change everything you think you know about Liam's past, and about the nature of memory itself. The truth is closer than ever, but so is the danger. Just as Liam's family was grappling with a chilling anonymous warning and the vanishing documents, a new thread unraveled that threatened to pull everything apart even further. Across town, Liam's aunt, who had kept a quieter, more distant role in the family saga, began receiving strange messages herself, cryptic emails that echoed the threats aimed at Liam's parents, but hinted at secrets even darker and more dangerous. These emails contained fragmented phrases like "look beneath the surface" and "the past never forgets," along with old photographs that no one recognized at first glance. The photographs seemed ordinary but carried subtle, unsettling details: shadows cast in unfamiliar shapes, people caught in the background who looked vaguely familiar but never appeared in any family albums. These messages raised immediate alarm. Was the warning truly aimed only at Liam's immediate family, or was there a wider conspiracy involving anyone remotely connected to the boy's mysterious memories? Meanwhile, A startling new piece of evidence came to light that shook the very foundation of everything the researchers and family thought they understood. A recently uncovered diary, belonging to a woman long thought to be an innocent bystander in this decades-old puzzle, revealed entries that contradicted crucial parts of Liam's story. This diary detailed interactions that suggested she might have been far more involved than anyone realized, potentially hiding critical truths about Liam's supposed past life. Some entries hinted at deliberate misinformation, and others hinted at betrayals within the community itself. The diary's discovery sparked fierce debates among the investigators. If this woman's account was accurate, could it mean that Liam's memories had been manipulated or that someone close had reasons to alter the narrative? It threw the entire investigation into chaos, leaving everyone unsure of what was real and what was a carefully constructed illusion. At the same time, suspicions about Mr. Harper, the family friend who had once seemed trustworthy, grew louder. A few discreet inquiries uncovered that Harper's history was far more complicated and potentially sinister than initially believed. Whispers surfaced about his ties to a shadowy network with vested interests in keeping certain family secrets buried. A leaked report hinted at Harper's involvement in previous cases where truth had been obscured by threats and disappearances. Suddenly, every gesture Harper made, every document he provided, was viewed through a lens of doubt. Was he genuinely helping Liam's family, or was he quietly steering them away from truths that powerful figures didn't want exposed? The ambiguity surrounding Harper's motives intensified the tension to a breaking point. Could he be a friend, a foe, or something far more dangerous? All the while, Liam's own behavior added another layer of complexity. The boy, who had once shared memories with remarkable clarity, began experiencing sudden episodes of confusion and distress. On some days, he insisted that certain memories weren't his at all, as if someone else's past was intruding into his mind. On others, he appeared distant and fearful, reluctant to answer questions and sometimes even withdrawing from the people he trusted most. Psychologists involved in the case speculated about the emotional toll of carrying such an extraordinary burden, while others worried that external pressure and fear of the unknown were overwhelming him. Was Liam's mind truly recalling a past life, or was it fracturing under the weight of secrets and threats that no child should bear? This secondary storyline deepened the mystery beyond just Liam's memories, transforming it into a complex web of hidden agendas, fractured loyalties, and uncertain realities. Everyone connected to the family seemed to be caught in the middle of forces they barely understood, and the boundaries between truth and deception became increasingly blurred. Each new clue opened doors to questions that tangled the investigators and the family in more confusion and fear. Was this truly a story of reincarnation and lost history, or something far darker, a carefully crafted cover-up hiding painful truths that some would kill to protect? With stakes higher than ever, the question everyone began to whisper was no longer just who Liam really was, but who could be trusted at all. And as the shadows lengthened over the investigation, it became clear that the answers might come at a cost far greater than anyone had imagined. The story was no longer just about a boy's past life. It was about the dangerous power of secrets, the fragile line between memory and manipulation, and the hidden forces that would stop at nothing to keep the truth locked away forever. Just when Liam and his family thought they had braced themselves for the worst, the darkness that had been lurking on the edges of their lives suddenly surged forward with a terrifying clarity that no one could ignore. It started with the subtle feeling that someone was watching, an unshakable presence that crept into the corners of everyday moments. Liam's mother caught glimpses of a shadowy figure outside their home late at night, vanishing whenever she tried to get a closer look. Then, Liam himself began noticing strange people lingering near his school and in the neighborhood, faces unfamiliar but eyes that seemed to pierce through him with unnerving intensity. The eerie sense that they were being followed quickly grew into a chilling reality when Liam's closest friend, the one person who had stood by him through everything, suddenly disappeared without warning or explanation. The loss was devastating, not only emotionally, but also as a sign that the threats looming over them were escalating and becoming dangerously personal. Liam's parents, already strained by the mounting pressure, scrambled to piece together what was happening, but every lead seemed to disappear as fast as it appeared. Phone calls went unanswered, messages were deleted, and the small circle of trusted allies began shrinking. A direct threat arrived in the form of a handwritten note slipped under their front door late one stormy night, its chilling words warning that the family must stop digging or suffer the consequences. The handwriting was unfamiliar, yet the cold menace behind the message was unmistakable. This wasn't just an abstract warning anymore, it was a promise. The weight of that threat settled heavily on everyone, especially Liam, who was beginning to understand, with terrifying clarity, that his memories were not only a mystery to be solved, but a danger that could unravel everything he held dear. Inside, Liam wrestled with a growing storm of fear and confusion. The boy who had once spoken with such certainty about his past life was now consumed by nightmares and restless days, caught between flashes of memory and the harsh reality pressing in around him. He wondered if those memories were worth the pain and the fear, questioning whether the truth was something he wanted to uncover at all. The isolation that came with knowing things others couldn't understand weighed on him heavily, turning moments of hope into bouts of despair. His trust was shattered, replaced by a creeping paranoia that anyone, friends, family, even the people meant to protect him, could be involved in the web of secrecy closing around him. Every knock on the door, every unexpected visitor, made his heart race, and the world seemed to shrink to the confines of shadows and whispered threats. Amid this turmoil, new questions clawed their way to the surface, multiplying the uncertainty. Who was behind the threats and disappearances, and what were they trying to protect? Could Liam's past life hold the key to something far bigger and darker than anyone had imagined? And in a twist that none of them saw coming, was the boy himself at the center of a dangerous game that reached far beyond the boundaries of his family and community, into forces that had remained hidden for decades? The answers remained tantalizingly out of reach, obscured by layers of deception and fear that thickened with each passing day. As the shadows deepened and the danger drew closer, one thing was painfully clear. This was no longer just a story about memories and lost lives. It was a fight for survival, for truth, and for the fragile hope that the past could one day be understood without destroying the future. And as Liam and his family faced the darkest moments yet, they had no choice but to keep moving forward, even when every step felt like a step closer to the edge. You're about to see how this story unfolds, how the boundaries between friend and foe blur, and how the search for truth can lead to the most unexpected and chilling places. Just when the tension seemed unbearable and every lead pointed toward an ever-darkening conspiracy, a revelation shattered everything the family and the investigators had believed up to that point, flipping the entire narrative on its head in a way no one saw coming. It wasn't a stranger lurking in the shadows or an unknown enemy with a vendetta. The twist came from someone who had been a constant presence in Liam's life, a figure the family had trusted implicitly, his own grandmother. Known for her calm demeanor and unwavering support, she suddenly confessed to a secret she had hidden for decades, one that forced everyone to reevaluate the entire mystery from the ground up. According to her, Liam's memories were not fragments of a past life, but echoes of a carefully concealed family history, memories passed down through generations, not through reincarnation but through a hidden trauma that had been buried deep within the family's collective consciousness. The boy's vivid recollections were actually tied to a dark chapter involving betrayal, loss, and cover-up stretching back far beyond what anyone had suspected. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation. The grandmother explained how, as a child, she had witnessed events that the family had deliberately erased from their shared story, events so painful and dangerous that silence became their defense. The photographs, the cryptic messages, the diary entries, it all fit together in a puzzle much more human and much more devastating than a supernatural tale of past lives. Instead, it was a tale of secrets kept to protect the family name and powerful interests who still wielded influence in the shadows. This changed everything because it meant the threats were not just about suppressing mystical truths, but about silencing knowledge that could dismantle legacies and expose wrongdoing stretching across decades. The boy's memories had tapped into this buried trauma, making him a living archive of a history some wanted to keep hidden forever. Even more unsettling was the grandmother's warning that the family's true danger came not from some unknown external force, but from those within their own circle who feared what the truth could unleash. Her confession forced Liam and his parents to question everyone around them, who was truly loyal and who was quietly working to keep the past buried at any cost. It also raised disturbing questions about the nature of memory itself. How much of what Liam recalled was his own, and how much was a collective imprint of pain and loss handed down like an unbreakable chain? The boundaries between past and present, reality and memory, trust and betrayal blurred in ways that left everyone reeling. This twist didn't just complicate the mystery, it transformed it into a profound exploration of family, identity, and the lengths people will go to protect the stories they want the world to believe. Suddenly, the search for the truth wasn't just about a boy's strange memories, but about unearthing a hidden legacy that challenged everything the family thought they knew about themselves. As the pieces of this new puzzle began to fall into place, one chilling realization emerged. The answers Liam was seeking could change, not just his family's future, but rewrite a history that powerful people had fought to erase. With every new layer revealed, the mystery grew deeper, darker, and far more personal. And as you watch the story unfold, get ready to question everything you thought was real, because sometimes the most shocking truths come from the places you least expect, and the people you trust the most may hold the key to the darkest secrets. Liam's world suddenly felt like it was closing in from all sides, suffocating him with the weight of impossible choices that no child, or anyone really, should have to face. After his grandmother's shocking confession, the fragile sense of safety he clung to shattered completely, leaving him stranded in a storm of doubt, fear, and betrayal. The lines between friend and foe blurred until even those closest to him became shadows of uncertainty. His parents, once his strongest pillars, wrestled with their own guilt and secrets, their worried glances speaking volumes of the battles they fought silently behind closed doors. But the hardest moment came when Liam was forced to confront someone who had been like a second parent to him, his uncle, whose calm exterior finally cracked, revealing a tangled web of involvement that tied him directly to the very forces trying to bury the truth. This confrontation wasn't just about questions or accusations. It was a heart-wrenching clash between loyalty and morality, love and justice, trust and betrayal. Liam's heart pounded as he stared into the eyes of someone he had idolized, realizing that the man held pieces of a puzzle that could either save their family or tear it apart forever. At the same time, the threats intensified, no longer veiled in vague warnings, but delivered with cold precision. The family was given a brutal ultimatum: abandon the search for answers and live quietly in the shadow of lies, or push forward and risk everything: their safety, their freedom, even their lives. This crushing decision forced Liam and his parents into a corner where every choice felt like a gamble with no winners. The emotional toll was overwhelming, twisting their days with anxiety and sleepless nights filled with whispered conversations and hurried plans. Liam, once a boy with a curious spirit and an unshakable determination to find the truth, now found himself torn between the desperate hope to uncover what really happened and the paralyzing fear of losing everyone he loved. The burden of knowledge weighed heavily on his young shoulders, the kind of burden that isolates and changes a person, sometimes forever. What made it even more unbearable was the internal battle raging inside Liam's own mind. How could he trust his memories when the people around him, even those he cared about, seemed caught in a labyrinth of deception? And if revealing the truth meant tearing his family apart or putting them in danger, was it truly worth it? Every step forward felt like walking a razor's edge between hope and heartbreak, and the consequences of a wrong move loomed larger than ever. Friends who had offered comfort began to distance themselves, unsure of who to believe or what to fear. The world outside, once familiar and safe, now felt like a maze filled with shadows and whispers, where every smile hid a secret and every gesture could be a trap. This wasn't just a story about a boy recalling a past life anymore. It was about the painful cost of seeking truth in a world built on silence and fear. It was about the sacrifices demanded by courage and the harsh reality that some battles come with no easy answers or happy endings. And as Liam stood at this crossroads, faced with choices that could change everything, the tension stretched taut, leaving viewers hanging in a moment thick with uncertainty and emotional turmoil, desperate to know what would happen next, but terrified of what the answer might be. The story was far from over, and the darkest chapters were still waiting to be written. Just when Liam thought he had a grasp on the tangled web surrounding his family's hidden past, the truth exploded in his face, revealing a conspiracy far more vast and insidious than anyone could have imagined. It wasn't just his family or a small group of shadowy figures working to keep secrets buried. It was an entire network of powerful people, some holding influence in places Liam had never dreamed of, and others lurking in the very communities he and his family had trusted for years. This wasn't a simple cover-up anymore. It was a sprawling operation that reached into local authorities, business leaders, and even some of the investigators who had promised to help. The chilling realization hit hard. Liam was not just a boy with mysterious memories. He was a key piece in a game where the stakes were life and death. As the layers peeled back faster than anyone could keep up with, Liam's world spiraled into chaos. Allies turned into enemies overnight. One person he had confided in, someone he considered a rock during the darkest moments, revealed their true colors, delivering a betrayal so sharp it cut through every bit of trust Liam had managed to hold on to. This person had been feeding information back to the very forces trying to silence the family, manipulating moments of vulnerability for their own gain. The shock of this betrayal was electric, shaking Liam's belief in who he could count on, and forcing him to question every interaction since the beginning. The safety net he once leaned on vanished in an instant, leaving him exposed in the crosshairs of a relentless adversary. With danger closing in from every angle, Liam found himself running against time, the urgency thicker than ever as he pieced together how deep the conspiracy truly ran. Phone lines were tapped, messages intercepted, and even those who tried to reach out mysteriously disappeared or were silenced by fear. The pressure was unbearable, not just for Liam but for everyone connected to the case, as it became clear that the truth was more explosive than anyone had guessed, and those in power were willing to do whatever it took to keep it that way. It was no longer just about uncovering secrets, but about survival. Every decision felt like walking on thin ice, and the weight of what was at stake hung heavy in the air, pressing down with an almost suffocating intensity. Emotionally, Liam's resolve hardened as he realized that backing down was not an option, even if it meant risking everything. His childhood innocence was slipping away, replaced by a fierce determination that burned in his eyes every time he looked in the mirror. The betrayal, the lies, the looming threats, it all became fuel for his fight to expose the truth, no matter the cost. But in the midst of this high-stakes battle, the most terrifying truth remained hidden just out of reach, promising that the final act of this story would be unlike anything anyone had ever expected. And as viewers watch every twist and turn unfold, the question isn't just what the truth is, but how much Liam, and everyone who dares to stand with him, will have to sacrifice before it finally comes to light. Liam's journey had led him to a moment he never thought possible, a confrontation where the tangled threads of his past, the shadowy conspiracy, and the people he once trusted collided in a charged atmosphere thick with tension and raw emotion. The air was electric as he stepped into the dimly lit room, the flickering light casting long shadows that seemed to echo the uncertainty and danger lurking in every corner. Across from him stood the figure who had orchestrated so much of the pain and confusion, the mastermind who had manipulated memories, silenced witnesses, and tried to erase the truth. This was not just a battle of words or wills, but a collision of worlds where Liam's resilience was tested to its absolute limit. As they faced each other, the room crackled with unspoken history and buried secrets. The villain, calm yet chilling, unveiled the final piece of evidence, a long-hidden file that contained not only proof of the conspiracy's vast reach, but also shocking details about Liam's past life and why he had been targeted. The revelation hit Liam like a thunderbolt, reshaping everything he thought he knew about himself, his family, and the dark forces at play. It was a truth so profound and deeply personal that it threatened to break him, yet within that pain stirred a fierce determination to reclaim his story and bring justice to those who had suffered in silence. The psychological battle that ensued was brutal and unrelenting. Words were weapons, memories were battlegrounds, and every revelation pushed Liam closer to the edge. He confronted the villain not just with accusations but with the raw weight of his own experiences, the confusion, the fear, the loss, and the desperate hope for answers. The villain responded with cold logic and cruel taunts, trying to unravel Liam's resolve, but each attempt only strengthened his spirit. It became clear that this confrontation was more than personal. It was a fight for truth itself, a struggle to break free from a cycle of deception that had spanned years and affected countless lives. Just as Liam seemed to gain the upper hand, ready to expose everything and shatter the conspiracy wide open, the room plunged into darkness, and a sudden, deafening silence fell. When the lights flickered back on, the villain was gone, vanished as mysteriously as the key pieces of evidence that had once guided Liam's search. But in their place was an unexpected ally, someone Liam had never suspected, holding a new clue, a fragment of the puzzle that threatened to rewrite the entire story once again. This last twist threw everything into chaos, leaving Liam and the viewers reeling with questions and the haunting realization that the truth was far from over. The climax was not the end, but the gateway to a deeper mystery, one that promised even more danger, heartbreak, and revelations yet to come. After everything Liam had endured, the betrayals, the shadows stretching across his family's history, the pulse-pounding chase for truth, it all came down to a quiet moment of reckoning. The storm of conspiracy had finally begun to settle, revealing not just the layers of deceit, but also the strength of the human spirit to rise beyond the darkest of secrets. Liam stood on the edge of everything he once thought unshakable, knowing that while the path ahead was uncertain, he had claimed a victory far greater than exposing hidden agendas. He had reclaimed his identity, his voice, and a sense of peace that had eluded him for so long. The evidence he uncovered had rippled through communities, sparking conversations about memory, truth, and the hidden threads that connect us all, drawing thousands into a story that was both extraordinary and deeply human. Yet even as the dust settled, the air remained charged with an unspoken question, a hint that not all mysteries were fully solved. The final clue, entrusted to Liam by the unlikely ally, was a small, unassuming object whose meaning wasn't immediately clear but promised that the story was far from over. It was a reminder that truth is rarely neat and complete, often layered with complexities that challenge what we believe and force us to look deeper into ourselves and the world around us. Liam's journey had opened a door, inviting not just him but everyone watching to consider the vast unknowns hidden beneath everyday life, the memories we carry, and the secrets some will go to any length to keep buried. It was a powerful reflection on trust, resilience, and the courage it takes to seek the truth, even when the cost feels overwhelming. For viewers, this wasn't just the end of a story. It was a beginning, a call to remain curious and vigilant, to question the narratives presented to us, and to honor the unseen battles many fight quietly within. Liam's experience stayed with them long after the video ended, a haunting, beautiful testament to the complexity of human memory and the power of persistence. As the screen faded to black, a final message lingered, that sometimes the greatest mysteries are those that live inside us, waiting for someone brave enough to listen and piece together the fragments of a life not fully understood. In that lingering silence, the audience was left with a lasting impression, an invitation to explore the unknown, to trust their instincts, and to never stop searching for the truth hidden just beyond the surface.